What's up? This is Patrick of Radicards.com, and today I'm going to be going over the top 10 Frank Thomas pickups of 2019. Here we are in March, right? And I'm finally getting this off the ground. Yeah, well, okay, so the year kind of like took its own footing. That's good, though. It's been a good year. We're just going to get right into this stuff. I'm finally ready to do this now. I'm excited because 2019 was an awesome year for collecting, and this list is pretty amazing. It really is going to be a great list to discuss. We're going to kind of jump right into it here. So let's get started with the 2019 honorable mentions, okay? So here we have, introducing the list this year is the 2005 Origins Old Judge Gold Parallel number to 20. Now, I don't have really much from this run. This, I think, is the only base. There's like a jersey card in the run, too, for Thomas. I think this is my only Old Judge of the various parallels that exist for the set. Now, I saw this card, same card list and sell years ago, I think in like 2013, 14, 15, right in that block of time, maybe even earlier, but I didn't get it then. And I was like, well, maybe I'll see it again. And I did. I saw another one, the Surface, last year, and I was like, I'm gonna get this one. You know, the design is cool. It's got that kind of heritage, old style appearance to it on the front there. I like that design. You know, I'm sort of like torn because this particular design in 2005 was very atypical. 2005, we still have very strong, shiny designs, and this was a very matte finish, very simple design. But I do like its take on the old style designs of trading cards and that sort of American heritage of baseball and jazz and you know, just that like old-fashioned baseball theme from like the late 1800s. I really like that. I think this particular card has captured that quite well. So especially with that sepia finish there on the front of the card, makes Frank Thomas's black jersey almost appear kind of like a dark brown. It works. It just really works. And so these are rare. Like I said, I've only seen this card one other time. I've been at this for a lot of years, and so if I've seen this card now 2 times in all of these years since it's been released, it just tells you how rare it is. And the print run obviously being to 20, it's rare just by design alone. So again, this is the 2005 Origins Old Judge Gold Parallel number to 20. Okay, so this one is 2004 Leaf Certified Materials Mirror Autograph Gold number to 10. This made the honorable mentions list because I've been working on these 2004 Leaf Certified Materials cards for a while, and I have most of them. I think the remaining items I need are one-of-ones, and so who knows if I'll see the other ones. But when I saw this was one of the fewer that one of the few remaining that I needed, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna grab that. I love this set. I think 2004 Leaf Certified Materials was well done. I've always been a fan of Leaf Certified Materials. The products that are made under this umbrella are awesome, and they always look so good scanned too. So this particular year, all they have is sticker autographs. The sticker blends well with the design of the card, and I like that. And I like the stamp over the sticker autograph. Just pops off the card like that. So this is the only time I've seen this card. There is a version of this card that I've seen, I believe it was this one, where the autograph sticker is upside down. I think it was this one. It was one of the golds from one of the years, and I think it was this one. So whatever the case, I finally got this gold autograph version, number to 10. Glad to finally put this away. Check this off the list. Really a beautiful set. A lot going on with 2004 Leaf Certified Materials. You've got a lot of stuff to chase. So if your players in this set, expect to spend some time, years, piecing together the run. If you can put a sizable percentage of the run together, it's okay if you don't finish it all. There are a lot of one-of-ones. There's like the black base parallel one-of-one, the autograph parallel one-of-one, the material parallel one-of-one. There's a bunch of different material parallel one-of-ones. So you've got the golds and the reds and the blues and the whites, and then the base card. So there's just a lot of stuff with 2004 Leaf Certified Materials. I like this set though. I think it's cool. I've always liked it. Like I said, just a good looking set. It's pretty. So there you have it. This is the 4 Leaf Certified Materials Mirror Autograph Gold, number to 10. Similar picture on this one. This is the 2004 Donruss Production Line Slugging Die Cut. Oh, man. So, 2004 Donruss is a very awesome run of cards. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of cool, shiny, hollow foil, refractory type finish. And the cards are pretty. They're, it's at a time when the game use and autograph thing was really blowing up in the hobby. And so a lot of these kinds of old classic style designs were kind of being shuffled by the wayside in a lot of ways, because the companies were jumping on that, everybody's going on game use. We got to have a chunk of a relic in there somewhere to do something. So when I see these cards that are beautiful by design, I'm often more drawn to them than a chunk of whatever in a card. I just prefer the card's design by itself. I don't need a piece of a shirt or whatever in anything. So I often gravitate toward this kind of stuff over the game use stuff. Nothing wrong with the game use stuff. It's in 2004, you saw a lot more of that than this stuff. And so when I see this, it's cool. And then in this rare version of these things, it's even cooler. I've been looking for this card for a while, and my buddy pinged me online. He was like, "Hey man," he sent me a link to this. It was sold through this was through CMC, and when I saw it, I immediately bought it. Can finally check off one more card from 2004 Donruss. This stuff's pretty affordable for what it is still, which is nice because it's relatively still new, kind of, even though we're all 16 years ago now, which is crazy. I started business school in 2006. I remember walking in on my first day of business school in 2006. Now here we are in 2020. Where does the time go? It's crazy. So anyway, going back to this card, really awesome design. Donruss, that classic feel of Donruss really is brought out, showcased in this particular card. You'd think for a card serial number to 100, I would have seen this more times than I have. I feel like this being maybe the one or only one of two instances I've seen this card. I think it's because it's still relatively new, so it's still sitting in we broke a lot of wax in 2004. And we haven't gone through this stuff, so it's all sitting in a box somewhere. That's kind of the category I think of this when I think of this card and why it's been so elusive over the years for me. That probably a lot of these are just left being waited to be sort through in various collections around the country. I don't know. All I know is that this is one of two instances that I've seen this card over the years, and glad to finally get in the collection. Beautiful card. I love that blue print on the front. That it's kind of the same in the back. It just really works with that hollow foil finish. So there you have it. This is 2004 Donruss Production Line Slugging Die Cut, number to 100. All right, so that finishes out the honorable mentions, and let's just kind of, that warms us up for what we're now going to be jumping right into, which is the top 10 Frank Thomas pickups of 2019. This is what I acquired, my favorite pieces that I acquired in 2019 for Frank Thomas. So let's jump right into it here. Now, you may remember in a former top 10 a previous top 10 list that I talked about one of the other, essentially the other card in this set that's the inside access. Well, this I finally found its brother. 1998 Skybox Dugout Access, inside access, parallel, number to 50. I sometimes I look at designs and I'm like, gosh, I'm kind of glad that it's so subtle, because what that means, okay, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's so subtle that it's not going to bring a whole lot of traffic when it does surface, because it really looks the same as the base card. It's not like the difference between a base Metal Universe and a PMG, because it just has a gold foil print on the bottom right corner in the front of the card saying inside access. And if you see that, then you have to flip it over and notice the serial number. But just seeing that gold foil could be, kind of a challenge, because it's so subtle. It's so subtle. And remember, you flip, generally most of us are right-handed, so we flip from the left to the right with our thumbs. And so we're going to cover up a lot of that part of the card as we're flipping through cards. So I waited for a long time to add this. I mean, here we're at 2019 top 10 list, and this card came out in 1998. So, I mean, granted, I came back to the hobby in 2003 from a hiatus, and so I had been looking for this card since 2003. But granted, my focus was accommodated elsewhere on all these other cards I had to acquire over the years. So you'd think for a card number to 50 again with the print run, I would have seen one other copy, but given its subtle variationness of it, I guess you would say, it doesn't really surprise me that it took me this long to get this card. I really like the early 90s Saved by the Bell style design of this card. I think it's cool. I like that. I've always liked that early 90s, various shapes and fluorescent colors and all that. It's kind of cool. I've always liked fluorescent colors, though, so it's been kind of a fun thing. This card doesn't really feature fluorescent colors, per se. I mean, it kind of has some colorful flamboyance happening on the front of the card, which I like, that vintage look. The back is just blaringly yellow, which I like, which is kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of 91 Fleer. Yellow and black. So this is cool. I'm glad to finally have the other card in the set, the Inside Access. I was so happy to finally have both these cards. There was a time in 2013 from January to April, like a 3-month block, like all of January, all of February, all of March. I didn't get back into the hobby until April. So I took a 3-month break that in Q1, essentially. I just didn't get on eBay at all because I had to buy some furniture and things for my apartment, and I needed the money for those things. So when I got back to the hobby, I learned that somebody in the group, the Frank Thomas community, had acquired one of these on a cheap bin on eBay, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would have loved to have that. And it wasn't until I got mine in 2019 that I saw another one. And the seller had a few of these. He had a couple copies over the course of time. He just kept listing them, and they kept coming down in price. I don't think I had any competition with mine. And he had a few more going after I bought mine. So, whatever the case, I was glad to finally get this done, just check this off. It's just took me so long to find this card. So this is the 1998 Skybox Dugout Access Inside Access Parallel number to 50. Oh gosh, this card. Okay, so this card comes with kind of an interesting story. This is the 2001 Top Stars Elimination. I say parallel because it is a parallel, but it's like a redemption card thing. It's like a sweepstakes kind of game card. Okay, there's a print run of this is to 100. Interesting story about these cards. I didn't really pay attention to these Elimination until I bumped into one in a bargain bin at a show some years ago, like 4 years ago. I used to go to these mall shows or whatever here that are hosted by the fellas that have been hosting shows or been part of hosting shows since 95. I've known these, probably longer than that, but I've known them since then because that's when I first met them, and they've still host these shows, and it's so cool. I've known these guys for so long. Really, really cool guys. One good gentleman, he's got these pretty hit or miss bargain bins. They're usually sometimes they're really good and sometimes they're just really average. And so I had encountered his bin on a really good day, and I came across the Barry Bonds of this. And so I cherry picked that for $1, of course. And I was like, well, I don't have the Thomas. I don't know why. I've never seen the Thomas. I mean, obviously I know why. I've never seen it. Why would I have it? So why don't I have it? What's the big deal about these cards? Now, I haven't read the small print on the back of these cards. Usually it's a bunch of legal jargon, but I know that they're rare, and this is the only one I've ever seen of Thomas. And so when it did surface, I'm like, well, I have to get this into my archive because I remember working on all the other ones. There's an Onyx, as a gold, and then the base. And I remember working on those and then just kind of missing this one. I'm like, gosh, why can't I get this Elimination parallel? They're just terribly difficult to find. Crazy thing is the Onyx parallel is numbered to 99. This one has a print run of one more to 100. And I've seen the Onyx parallel at least 3 or 4 other times since I've bought mine. But this is the only Elimination I've ever seen. Now, there is that kind of weird, kind of strange perceived stigma toward some redemption cards that be like, oh, whatever, it's a whatever, throw it in the dollar bin. I know that. I mean, if you're listening and you've been around this hobby for 10, 20, 30 years, whatever, You've probably seen some of that over the course of time and in your interactions with various dealers, but I mean, it's to our advantage, right? It's like, well, actually behooves the buyers for the sellers to have that sort of mentality because it allows us to potentially interact with some really good deals. And whatever the case is, that the only difference between this and the base is that red stamp there in the top right area quadrant. Finally glad to get this card in the archive. This finishes the top stars parallel block for Thomas for me. I'm glad to have this done. Great looking card, classic shot of Frank Thomas there. I'm glad to have this card in my collection. I always like this set too with the hollow foil printing on the front there. Just pretty, they're pretty cards. So there you have it. This is 2001 Top Stars Elimination, print run of 100. Whew, another card that I waited and waited and waited and waited and waited longer and longer and longer to get. 2001 Stadium Club Super Teams Exchange. There is not a stated print run on these, but they're extremely rare. Really difficult to get. Odds on these are 1 in like 875 hobby and retail, 1 in 340 a home team advantage. So they're tough. I never opened 2001 Stadium Clubs because I was out of the hobby at this time. I was like finishing high school, getting into college, whatever. So I missed this set entirely. I mean, obviously the insertion ratios are testament enough to why they're so rare. Okay, they're hard to find. I've seen this card 1 or 2 other times since I got mine, and I'm on a community forum online, one of them anyway, and one of the gentlemen who's there, I want to say he reached out to me and offered it to me, and we worked a deal on that forum for this card. But I was so thankful because I've been after this card for a really long time, and I was so glad to get this strange parallel of this card. And there's just certain times, certain parallels where you're like, gosh, there's no print run, but it should be super rare. I really dig the design on this card with the baseballs in the bottom corners there. It's cool. And Frank Thomas is essentially floating off the ground there like that. This was a card I was like, man, I got to eventually find this card. I don't know when I'm going to find it. It was on my most wanted list. I mean, really all the top 10 items were most wanted list cards. Except for one of them. One of them should have. We'll get to that card later. There's one here on the top 10 list that was not on the list because I never thought I would ever see it as a single. We'll talk about it later. Just hold that thought. So again, 2001 Stadium Club Super Team Exchange parallel. Again, I don't know what the exchange program was for. I didn't look into it. It's like you're kind of tunnel visioned as a player collector. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a rare parallel. Why? Whatever. Sometimes you learn, sometimes you don't. This is one of those instances where I just didn't pay attention to what the big deal is with these cards are. I just know that they're extremely rare. So cool stuff. 2001 Stadium Club Super Team Exchange parallel. Frank Thomas. Okay, this card was the last one I needed for the 6-card run for 2001 Donruss Elite Primary Colors Red Die Cut, number to 25. I mean, it's obvious why this would be the rarest one. It's got one of the lowest print runs. There is another card in this set. It has a similarly scarce print run. It took me a while to find that other version, that other card, but when I did, it brought me down to this one. I was like, I just need this one last piece of the puzzle. And one of our fellow Frank Thomas collectors was selling off his PC, and I went to him, I was like, hey, what do you... I linked him to my most wanted list. I was like, if you have anything in this list, I'll take whatever you've got. And he had 3 or 4 items, I think. It was at least 3. Might have been just 3 items. Whatever the case is, that I bought all 3. And so this was one of them. And I was like, so glad to finally have this card because I had not seen it at auction before. And so, 2001 Donruss was still kind of reminiscent of the 90s stuff. Well, I guess I want to reminisce of that like flashy hollow foil sort of era. And I like that a lot. And so it kind of bled into the early 2000s, but 2001 Donruss Elite Primary Colors is a 6-card run. You've got red, blue, yellow, non-die cut, and then red, blue, yellow, die cut. And the serial numbers are kind of, they're kind of you'd think the die cuts would be the rarest ones. They're not always the case. Like the yellow non-die cut is rarer than the yellow die cut. Like that's kind of how it is, right? Like that's the thing, that there's certain colors that you'd think are be rarer than others based on their cutting, but they're not. Sometimes the non-die cut is rarer. We'll talk about that here again later on down this list with another issue. But I was really happy to get this. I've written about this on Radicards, this whole set. So if you want to learn about the 2001 Donruss Elite Primary Colors, you can go to radicards.com and search for the article. And I talk about, I have a showcase of all 6 cards, and I talk about the cards and why they're rare, and etc. It's just a review of the set. So really glad to finally get this in the archive. This is a great ad in 2019. This is the 2001 Donruss Elite Primary Colors Red Die Cut number to 25. Another card that finishes a run for me. It's peeled, but I don't even care because, you know what, they're so rare that I'll take it. Sometimes a card's so rare, you just finding it in any condition is like a huge feat. And this is one of those times I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this red refractor for so many years. This finishes the run for me. Again, another 6-card run with red, blue, gold. They come in base and they become refractors with 10% of the print run. So this is 1999 Team Finest Red Refractor number to 50. So the gold refractor is the rarest one, number to 25. And then the blue is the most abundant of the 3, but the red is like the in-between thing. So I had all the other 5 cards, and I just needed this one, and I just wanted. It just took forever to surface and get access to one of them. One gentleman, before I bought this one, he had it listed. Another seller had one listed, and he wanted like some ludicrous price point for it. And I asked him, I was like, is there a reason why it's like 2.5 times than it should be listed? And he's like, well, there are some big Thomas collectors out there. I'm like, yeah, but you know, some of those Thomas collectors already have this card. They're not going to pay for it again, at least not that price, but whatever. I didn't actually, you know, what's interesting is that I rarely do that. I rarely like send a seller an email and ask them why it's not cheaper than it is. It's more like, hey, would you entertain an offer? You know, because like I need this card so badly. Can we talk about it? But even that is rare. But this was an instance where the seller had an OBO option, and I placed an offer, and he countered, and we agreed on a counter, and so I was able to finally get this in the collection. These are just tough, man. They're hard. All the refractors of these are tough, and I can't say the red is any tougher than the rest because obviously I'm not going to get them all at the same time. There's going to be one that's going to be the last one I get. This just happened to be that card, right? By design, the gold refractor is the rarest of all. You know, I got mine in 2014, my gold one, and then I've acquired the other ones along the way, like over the years. But glad to finally have this. They look beautiful. Again, another article on Radicards. If you want to go see all 6 of them and I talk about the set, just go to radicards.com and you can type in the set name and have a read. So there you have it. This is 1999 Team Finest Red Refractor number to 50. So this is a card that comes from a set that I've worked on over the years, all the different like various parallels and the different minis and whatever. There's like one base card and everything else is minis parallels. And this is the rarest, right? This is 2003 Topps 205 Bazooka Red number to 5. So the print run of 5 on this. It's not stated. This is one of those instances where you pull the card and you're like, oh, cool, Bazooka Red. What else did I get in the pack? Like you don't know that it's as crazy rare as it is. That's what I do on these like minis as I put them in a frame that make them showcase an appearance that they're actually minis, which is why you have the white border there. It's how you see it on the museum. It's how it's been uploaded. So just to, has that appearance so it has accurate representation. But something about Bazooka, I like the brand. It's like Cracker Jack and Bazooka. I'm a big fan of those brands because of their American heritage. I like the history of these brands because they're very tied into baseball over the years. And so it's kind of romantic in that way. I like that a lot. But this is the only time I've ever seen the Bazooka parallel to 5. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. There are 4 others floating around there somewhere. For all I know, they're still in packs for whatever the case. But when I saw this, I flat out just offered a number for the guy, and he took it. And I was like, wow, I didn't Like, awesome. I didn't think you were going to take that, but yeah, I'll take it for that price. I mean, my offer was reasonable. It wasn't like a low ball or anything. So I still need one more parallel for this mini parallel run, and it's not incredibly rare, but it is rare. It's not anywhere near as rare as a bazooka, but kind of a dull card in terms of stylistic like appearance. It's got like a matte finish. It's got that cool various baseball bat drawings. I like that. It's cool. I like this card. It just doesn't have the like flash value that some of the other stuff has that we've discussed already. But I do dig these kind of like obscure. I consider 2003 Topps 205 kind of an obscure release because it's a set that wasn't. It didn't come every year. 205 is cool though with the art. It's very classic. Again, we're going back to the American heritage. It really fits the staple of that bazooka theme, that old-fashioned kind of theme to baseball. And so when I saw this, I was like, I don't think I have the bazooka. Let me check my checklist. And I didn't. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the rarest one, number to 5. I need to go back and try to get this card. And so this is one of those cards where I was just like super excited to get into my collection because of its design, because I needed it, obviously, but it was the rarest one. And so this is 2003 Topps 205 Bazooka Red, serial number to 5. So this is the card that wasn't initially on my most wanted list because I never thought I was going to be able to find the card as a standalone. And I say that because this card was actually part of a framed item to promote 1997 Studio. And it's the 1997 Studio Portrait Collection, serial number to 500. So these frames, they made 500 of them. I've seen a few over the years. I don't have any of them, but I'd love to get them in my collection. I've seen 2 different versions of them, or 2 different. I've seen them. Frank Thomas featured in 2 different style frames, the 2 different cards. This being one of the cards. The difference being obviously the like seafoam green foil, that like teal turquoise hollow foil. I mean, it's pretty. It's a pretty card. It really is. Otherwise identical to the base card and the press proof parallels. But this one comes obviously with the addition of the portrait artist and the hand serial numbering. So the portrait artist autograph, the hand serial numbering. They're pretty. So I remember years ago when I first saw the framed item with this card, and then there's like a big jumbo version of it in the frame. And I was like, I just want the mini version. But when am I ever going to find it as a by itself card? You know, like people have to crack open the frame and then they have to ditch the frame and then sell the pieces. Like that's devastating to me to think about, that you're just destroying an artifact, even if there are 500 of them. There's something kind of sad about knowing what had to happen for me to get this card. It's not dissimilar from 1997 Score Stand and Deliver gold with red print on there, red lettering. That had to happen too. Someone had to crack open the frame and sell the pieces individually. Like that's devastating because such an endangered species situation, those framed items. I'd prefer to keep them intact, and that's just how I am now as a purist. You know, I just like that. But somebody else made the decision to crack open this frame and then loosely sell this card, and there I was, gonna get this card in my collection finally. After all these years, like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. I think I came across the initial one of these, the frame initially, I think in like 2012. I was working and I took a break to go out for a little bit, and I was surfing eBay, and one popped. I'm like, I hadn't seen that before. That's interesting. And I saw the small card. I was like, man, I'd love to have a small card in there. That's an interesting, weird parallel. And so here we are, 1997 Studio Portrait Collection to 500. So this is the other set that has die cuts and base, and sometimes the base, the non-die cut cards are rarer than the die cut, and then sometimes the die cuts are way crazy rarer than the base, right? So Frank Thomas has card 2A, 2B, 2C, and then 2A, 2B, 2C die cuts. And the scarcity is kind of all over the board with those. 2C die cut are like generally considered the rarest of all, with really ultra crazy hyper low print runs like below 10, like that kind of stuff. This is 1998 Donruss Elite Prime Numbers 2A, non-die cut. Has a print run of 56. Now, these are the last 56 cards in the print run of 456 are the non-die cuts. Okay, the first 400 are die cut. Okay, so die cut. The die cut version of this, I probably was the first of all of them that I acquired, and then I just pieced the other ones together over time. If you want to go to Radicards.com and type in 1998 Donruss Elite, you'll find a listing of an article. I talk about all 6 of these cards, and then the samples. There's like executive master proofs, all the different versions I know of that exist. So now I have this card completes the run. I have all the base, the die cut, and the samples. So there's 9 cards. And so you can go there and see all of them and showcased. This is the last one I needed. Been after this card for a while. I was like, man, when am I going to find this 2A non-die cut card? You know, there's 56 of these floating around. I should see one of them sometime. I saw there was a time when on eBay when I think one surfaced for like $30 and it was snatched up immediately. And then this one surfaced and I got it for more than that, but not much more than that. And I remember being like really excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I finally have this card coming. I'm so excited. It's definitely going to be my top 10 list for sure. Again, really, really rare run of cards. Difficult to put together. Very difficult because 2C die cut is just expect not to get it. If your player is in this run, just expect not to ever see the 2C die cut for your player because those are the rarest ones. The print runs are like ultra unicorn mythic beasts. They're super rare. I was lucky enough to come across one years ago and glad to finally put this set to rest. So this is the 1998 Donruss Elite Prime Numbers 2A, so the non-die cut with a serial number of 56. Now, it's interesting about these serial numbers back in this era is they didn't discriminate between serial numbers. Like, okay, the die cuts are the first 10. All right, we'll just have the die cut, serial number to 100 and just the first 10 being the die cut. And people have to know that it's the first 10. So these are like one of those instances where you might find stuff like this out in the wild cheaper than it should be because of this. Because if I didn't know about this, I had to learn about this in like 2010. I was like, why is there's this supposed to be to 25 but the print run is to 100? Oh, it's because of the first 25 or the autographed versions of whatever the card was at the time. And so this is one of those instances. This was popular in the late 90s, but it didn't last long. And then the companies got smart and they made the print runs associated with the parallels. They printed those print runs around the parallels. But if I looked at this and didn't know, I'd be like, oh, it's to 456. It must be cheap, $5 or whatever. So obviously, this not being a $5 card, this is a little bit more expensive, but glad to get this finally in the archive. I love how these scan. Something a hollow foil, man. It's just so cool. Scans so well. It's like that iridescent kind of flavor when it scans. I dig that so much. But okay, so this is 1998 Donruss Elite Prime Numbers 2A to 56. Okay, everybody knows the stories on the Pinnacle Epics. They're all over the board in terms of scarcity. The Epics moments, at least for Frank Thomas, not every player had pack issued moments. Like the Griffey, the moment is actually the bankruptcy issue because Pinnacle went bankrupt like before the second wave of Epics came out. So that run became super ultra highly elusive. Whatever the case, Epics moments for Thomas was pack issued, and the Emeralds have a print run of less than 30. It's not stated how many less, it's just less than 30. Okay, so again, if you want to read a lot about this, I have a great article, a really in-depth article on this set on Radicards.com if you want to learn more, but let's talk about the abridged version of that article right now. So Epics moments, the Emerald is the hardest of all the Frank Thomas Epics to get that are pack issued. I'm not including the play bankruptcy parallels. The pack issued stuff, this is the hardest one to get. Okay, it took me a while to learn what was what with Epics for Frank Thomas over the years. I thought I had this card. A friend of mine went to the National and he saw this card at a table, but didn't tell me about it until he got back. And then that seller ended up listing this card on eBay. It was a BGS 9.5, and I was like, I think I already have it. I didn't buy it. A friend of mine bought it. And I looked back again. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have that card. I should have bought it. It was like $150. It's such a good deal for that card. But I think it was $150 anyway. It was very affordable. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I got to learn what I have. And so I had to go back through and figure out what I had. And I didn't have this card. In fact, I had none of the moments. I had none of it. There was an orange, there was a purple. I hadn't had either of those. I was like, oh, when am I going to friggin' find these last 3 cards? The moments were the last 3 I needed of the pack issued stuff. Like I'd gotten all the games, the seasons. I got all the like header cards. I needed these moments. And so I didn't find, I was at the National 2018 and I found one seller who had both the orange and purple of this card. And I flat out offered him $60 for the pair and he took it. I was like, $60 for the pair. He's like, I'll take it. I mean, looking at back, I probably overpaid for them, but I don't think I overpaid that much. And honestly, I wanted them so badly, I didn't really care. I went there to buy. That's the National. My friend of mine who was selling his collection, I forwarded my most wanted list. I was like, if you have anything on this list, I'll buy it flat out. This was one of the other cards that he had. So we worked a deal that made sense to both of us, and I added it. Finally have this card. So Epics Moments, really interesting, beautiful scans. These are gorgeous cards, by the way. But if your player's in the pack issued Moments, the Emerald is going to be the toughest one to find because of its low print run. So again, this is 1998 Pinnacle Epics Moments Emerald with a print run of something less than 30. Now, again, if you want to read about all the moments, I talk about all of them in depth on an article on Radicards.com, so go check that out. Okay, so finally, this is the 1999 Aurora Opening Day, print run of 31. Only time I've ever seen this card. I've always been a huge fan of Pacific anything. I just like this. I like the styles of the cards. I like the colors. I like the die cuts. I like the images. I just like the whole thing. The whole production is just cool. Fun fact: Pacific launched its opening day parallels in 1999 Aurora, and then followed that suit with all the other products that had opening day parallels. But this was the first set to produce an opening day parallel. Kind of cool, right? So print run of 31, rare. Just crazy, silly, stupid rare. And this is the only time I've ever seen this card. And I paid aggressive for this one because I really badly wanted this card. This was on my most wanted list. There are certain cards that I've never seen of Pacific. The Pacific is made for Thomas. And I know they exist because they're part of sets, parallel sets that, you know, the whole run exists. I've just never seen the Thomas. And this was one of those cards. I was like, when am I ever going to see the 99 Aurora opening day? And one surfaced, and well, here's a fun story for you. So it was sent to me in a screw down, I think. Yeah. And so I had to unscrew it. And I have this like method for using like a flathead screwdriver, a thin one, a small one. And like I pry open the, because sometimes you pull off the screw and like the two pieces are like welded together like over time. And it's difficult to pry them apart just with your hands. You have to kind of like take tools at them, right? So I have this flathead screwdriver. And it's real skinny and small, and you know I use it for opening up screw downs. It's like a multi-adjustment thing, so it's really convenient. So it's like prying open one of the things, and it jabbed inward and opened it quickly, and it almost touched the card. And I was like shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I don't want that to happen. I'm so glad it didn't happen. So this card has been saved, and you know at the edges along the bottom, that's pretty common. It's like kind of rough, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to try to find another one. I mean, these are hard enough as they are to find just out of the gate. These opening day parallels from 99 Aurora. There's a red parallel, the non-opening day, just a red version with the red foil in the front. Those are mildly tough to find, I guess. And I was happy when I got that. And I was like, man, when am I gonna find opening day? So I was like, well, let's add this to my most wanted list and see if we can come across it sometime. So this gentleman had this card, and I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the raddest thing. I'm going to trying to get this card. And I did, and I was so happy because this is one of those very few remaining Pacific cards I still need for Thomas. There are like 5 left after this card. There are very few left. And most of them have pretty low print runs. One of them doesn't, but I've never seen, and I'm like, gosh, why is it so rare? So they got Pacific. Some of their stuff is so boutique that it's like a mystery. I'm like, man, that stuff is so rare. And yet I hear people, sometimes they just trash on Pacific. And then other times people love it. It's like one of those it's like 2008 moments and milestones. You either love it or you hate it. I absolutely a huge fan of Pacific. All the stuff they've ever produced, I've always liked it. I like the colorful, whimsical designs. It's very nice. I like that a lot. So this is, again, 1999 Aurora opening day, print run of 31. So that covers it. That's my 2019 top 10 Frank Thomas pickups. That's the stuff that I acquired for my collection in 2019 that I like the most of the Frank Thomas stuff that I bought last year. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments section, either on the blog or on YouTube or wherever you're enjoying this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Maybe tell me which one of the 10, or even in the honorable mentions, which one you liked the most or that resonated with you or something. And tell me what you think. And if not, that's fine too. I just enjoy making these videos. I hope you enjoyed that video. This is Patrick Green of Radicards.com. And until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this content, please subscribe. Thank you. Enjoy collecting.